Hello, everybody. Hi, my name is Dr. Joe Vertino, excuse me, spiritual guide. Sorry, 1 second. Let's see if this will go. Okay, there we go. I apologize. Hello, good morning, everyone. Dr. Joe Vertino, spiritual guide here, talking about proper perspective on mental health. The reason I have the title doctor is I'm a Reiki master, which is energy medicine. It's the optimum healing modality available to us. The tradition is known as Usui, and there's something called the five Reiki principles, which are a great practice for everybody. Um, and those are just for today, I will not worry. Just for today, I'll not be angry. Just for today, I'll do my work honestly. Just for today, I will be grateful. And just for today, I'll be kind to all living beings. So, proper perspective on mental health is, I think of the fourth Reiki principle of gratefulness, being grateful for the people who are working to help us heal, even if we leave it at that, right? So, not holding for any reason, a kind of hate in there, for healers or people that are working in that way. I feel is obviously important for our personal well-being in that way, you know and that we don't have to be them, we don't have to be healers, and that healing is a process, it's not something that comes about immediately. Yeah, and that the mind, mental health, right, the mind is such a beautiful thing, it's such a um uh it's something that we all have, in that way that we're meant to have. It's meant to be there, you know. So being grateful for that and allowing ourselves to, yeah, to know that an accurate word for the mind is potential, you know. Um, yes. So, and then if we go into the title a little bit, perspective, right? So we all have our own perspective, and that's meant to be also, that we're in that place of uh right now watching this video, we're in a place of self-love, so to speak, knowing, well, I clicked this, I'm watching this, proper perspective on mental health, and that's a loving act, a loving choice. So knowing that is important. Um, that um, and resonating with that, and also continuing to make choices that are loving to ourselves. And in that way, you may start to recognize that vibration, that very holy vibration, because obviously our self is meant to be, it's not going anywhere, and love is meant to be, and that's not going anywhere either. So the marriage of those two is a certainly a guaranteed good thing in this world, our shared world, in which, to be honest, difficulties are still um obviously apparent in it, right? And us being in denial of that, isn't necessary. And, in this place of self-love that we're residing in together, um, uh, basically us knowing that our choices matter, but knowing that the entire world isn't our fault, so to speak. Even if it was a good, if our world was perfect and we had our foundation of joy that was firmly established, which is a process in that way, obviously. Um, Even in that, the world is not our fault, so to speak, in the sense of choices. The choices that we're making are personal choices, in our personal lives. Yeah. So proper perspective on mental health, is certainly and that goes for everybody, you know. Um, yeah. So yes. So And also, I think what's very, very important is the choiceless choice, in that sense of choosing stillness, choosing to prioritize, um, peace, for yourself. A very, very important word is empowerment. Empowerment in that way of a recognition, of I guess you could say what what is it about you, in this now, in this life, in this day, and in that there's an empowerment in that recognition alone. And getting to that place of uh it's not so much you would come out of that place of coping, right? Or even I could say hoping, right? In that sense of those are both uh not as powerful or empowering as um what we could say sometimes is the option of stillness, and choosing stillness and choosing, instead of it being in context, that they're not having to be a context, right? And that the world is what it is already, and what we know of it is what we know of it, and what it knows of us is what it knows of us, so to speak, our relationship with the world. But and then us knowing that we have to choose and prioritize our own peace, right? So that's why, me being a spiritual guide, I obviously recommend, it's my job, meditation. I'm a meditation guide also. And yeah, letting yourself uh, grow, you know, um, yeah. So, yeah. And it's not so much that we have to have a perspective. You could say in that way, um, what that means is basically that there's an aspect to our mind that is innocent, that may feel oppressed by something like, well, you have to have, right, a proper perspective on mental health, or you have to say your opinion on this and get involved with this, etc. And in that way, the energy that I'm in right now is the proper perspective on mental health. um, and you could say it's not so much a what's that called? It's more of a passive thing, in here. Um, yeah, and allowing uh, your own truth. I mean, the point of mental health is allowing your own recognition of the truth to happen. That's the whole point of mental health anyways, is to foster that. Um, yeah. So, um, yeah. So, yes, yes, yes. So gratefulness generally. And obviously, a huge part of mental health is, as we already mentioned, the word empowerment. But finding your own, um, I guess, place, to use a general word. Like I mentioned, in our world, you know, sometimes it seems like a placeless place, right? Even though there's many places, and so then you coming into that resonance with yourself, and we mentioned self love, where you work to, I guess what we could say is have a happy heart, you know, and that, yeah, and that's possible, for us to be genuinely happy and to not suffer needlessly and to have consistency of happiness and joy, um, you know, in our life, and in our in that way, also still being, involved in other people's lives and serious things, and things that matter, non-trivial things. Um, but yeah, I would love to hear if someone has a question on the comments on proper perspective on mental health. Um, but yeah, so us. Knowing that, I think that there's good people in the world, like these therapists, and mental health experts, I feel like is very, very important. Um, for our mental well-being, even if we don't, you know, if nothing else comes of it, knowing that there's people in the world that are good. I'm being one of them. I love you, and I feel it's important for people to know that there's people that love them, even though they don't have any conditions on it, right? They don't know anything about them or us personally. Very, very important. Proper perspective on mental health. Yeah. Uh, yeah. And yeah, in that way, I see it as, I mean, I believe in God, and seeing it that, God giving us these senses, to fully experience life, to fully experience, and then really that's it, in that way that, we can have so many reasons, for things, that can be overwhelming. And then we don't, need, um, uh, well, the fact of the matter is what we need is can be reduced down to a simple simplicity, in that way, and then yeah, yeah, there's nothing wrong with being simple. I mean, yeah, I guess you could say even the people that are brilliant, the geniuses that have high intelligent quotients are, um, would have, you could ask them and interview them. There's a direct correlation, a relationship between simplicity and and um, I don't know, being stable. Having that proper place of balance, um, in yourself. Um, yeah. Um, So anyways, thank you so much for listening. This has only been 12 minutes. I don't know how long this video will be, but we've gone over some stuff, and all of it is about the proper positioning of the mind in that way. And it, like for example, I've been moving my hands a lot. I love my hands. I feel they're very beautiful. And uh, you know, uh, us, or rather, right, not us, but I being in that place where gratefulness, right, doesn't isn't so much like we just mentioned simplicity, right? Gratefulness is almost just kind of like, um, you know, when you're being still, it's still, there's still a, benevolence, about you, being life, and that's kind of like the home of gratefulness, um, in that way. And, you know, yes, and that, um, us, uh, uh, yeah, allowing, um, so to speak, the individualism, of who we are to manifest as a simple thing, right? That, experts in the field of mental health, would certainly, agree with me on that, in the sense that, individualism has to be, uh, you know, um, oh, that's strong language, right? Has to, but basically it already is the case. And then basically from there, you're seeing that it's something that isn't an option, right? Because it just is that we're all individuals, no matter what. And then basically, this taking this simple, kind of, uh, you know, foundational, oh, excuse me. The simple foundational truth and wisdom of it is that wait, but that means that it's just me, right? Because you said individual. Yeah, that's right. Right? And that's kind of the recognition of God's will in that. is that you're not meant to be in hell, right? You're not meant to suffer needlessly in that way, and that, um, and yeah, and then from there, you know, the natural expanse, like I mentioned, of gratefulness. There's a in stillness, gratefulness will arise naturally. You'll notice, in or you have already. And then if you notice further with gratefulness, there's no um like result that it's trying to get to, meaning in the sense that you are trying to get to when you're being grateful, that there's a kind of like a cause and effect, or point A, point B, um, kind of uh, goal orientedness to it. And basically that's, to me, we could say is the spiritual um, connection, you know, or understanding, in it, of it, that, for example, it's just not a part of the world that can be subject to being picked up and put down, and used, and put in that kind of um, place of, you know, uh, I'm here, and I have to get to and be somehow different than I am right now. That gratefulness doesn't have that in it, right? But yet it's so needed and it's so important. So what does that say? It says a lot about everything in the sense of how we are functioning and the world that we're perpetuating. Um, yeah, lovely. Uh, so yeah, proper perspective on mental health. And I say further is know that there is such a thing as proper. Know that there is something, right, that's there, that exists. And there is a weird word to use because it's here, it's us, it's, you know, um, and it's unavoidable, you know. And I basically, an appropriate word to use is morality, in that sense of ethics and behavior. But we're talking about proper perspective, right? Proper perspective is basically that, you're here, and that education is real, and the whole point of that, of education, even outside of school system, right, as a physical thing, is something that's unavoidable. It's a universal occasion that's going on and on and on and on and on. And yeah, the proper perspective is something that's always valid, so to speak. Giving attributes to it. What is a proper perspective? Well, we know that we can have a perspective, right? We're all individuals, and we know that we can be incorrect, right? So now, I mean, basically, that you could even say that's the beginning of it, of the proper perspective. It's called humility, right? Humility. And then the next one from that would be self-honesty, being honest with yourself, right? So the proper perspective on mental health, it would be what? That you are that you can grow, that you can heal, that you can be successful, right? And that also, and then that, yeah, you can be, yeah, that you can be genuinely happy and not suffer needlessly. All of that is the proper perspective, on mental health. Um, and yes, and in that you might notice the energy of trust starts to manifest, right? Manifest is a big word for happen, occur. Yeah. So being in that place of trust, rather than fear. Um, yeah. So how did that happen though? If that did happen for you, right? It may not have happened just through me in this video right now. It may have already happened earlier in your life, right? Or something like that. But how did that happen? How does that happen where you the fear uh begins to go away, and trust is something that is present. So how that happens, is basically, um from a mental health perspective, is you're attuning your ear, so to speak. Excuse me. You're attuning your ear, your senses, your mind to the um the exciting positive resonance, you know, in that way, which doesn't have to be an act, like a physical act, right? It can be an intention, right? But like I said earlier, so right now, like listening to this video, you're literally attuning your ear to it, right? Knowing that this video is good for you, right? So, and then basically also in there, basically as um, I guess you could say let go of the clutches of life, in that way, and knowing that life is already, and feeling into the relief that's there. And the ultimate goal for me is basically getting people to have a position in themselves that is proper, for healing, proper for the healing process. I think is the biggest thing for me. Yeah. And then basically, so as we uh yeah, 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 just being here and um uh knowing that you are what it's about, right? So for example, we are looking for something like the meaning of life, right? But you are what it's about. You are it. It's not the wall, right? Because first of all, we made the wall. The other humans, I mean, I didn't physically, but other humans made the wall, right? And I'm enjoying it, right? So in that way, I mean, basically the whole thing of like the proper perspective on all of that, is uh, uh, the point, the center of it all, like that one prayer song I listened to. Jesus be the center of it all. From the beginning to the end, your love will never end. Jesus be the center of it all. So in that way, the center of life is us. We are it. And in that way, the proper perspective of that is it can start to end, or being in it, the proper perspective can start to end the struggle. If there's struggle in you, right? Ah, and there can be all kinds of reasons that we don't need to try to label, right? So knowing that, so that's the thing, is what is that? That's not even an act, though. That's just because you're listening to someone who's a spiritual guide and who's in alignment. And then yes. So for example, what I think of in mental health is as we like move through our lives, the word allowance is very, very important in the sense of kind of even like you're thinking about like allowing the sun to rise, or allowing your eyes to open to see the sun, right? Allowing, allowing people to see you, right? Is something. And allowing yourself to care about yourself, you know? Yeah. So we're at 25 minutes. Proper perspective on mental health is the topic that we've been in together. And thank you for listening to this. Know that I do love you and I care about you. um, and that I'm a good person. All three of those things are true. And so, yes. So, not so much about trying to um, change our self, because, like we mentioned earlier, individualism is the case. And then from there, it's you've now relieved yourself of the insanity of acclimatizing yourself to something, but you're the center of it all, right? So I'll leave you with that. Um, I love you dearly. Thank you so much for listening. Please do check out my other material. I'm on Facebook under Joe H. Vertino, V as in victory, Ertino. Joe H. Vertino is on there. That's me. And then I also have books on Amazon under Joseph H. Vertino on Amazon: The Reform of the Education System, The Nothingness of Love, a Buddhist book of poetry, The Reiki Bible, a Guide to Reiki Living, and I'm coming out with two other ones soon. Please do not hesitate to contact me about education system reform, anything, spiritual guidance work on any possible level. Ask me anything. Don't reach out. Don't hesitate. Don't feel that it's might be off kilter for him. Just send the message. Please reach out. Feel open. Feel welcome. Dr. Joe Vertino here, Reiki Master. I also have guided meditations and podcasts on this same channel on YouTube. And I also have tons of other videos, some of them very, very weird. A lot of them weird. A lot of them weird. And then a lot of them very professional. That's the way it goes. And then I also have music and everything like that. And yeah. And thank you for taking the time to listen to me, in that way. And I guess I could say God knows that or something like that. But anyways, yeah. Thank you to all the mental health therapists in that field of medicine. Thank you for your service to humanity. Thank you for the people, the clients that are, I guess you could say, proving their need in our world, on genuinely and sincerely. Um, and thank you for all the respect, in the world and in that profession. Um, and thank you to the clients who are going in and using that are trusting. I mean, I say God, trusting the universal will of healing, that we're making that choice to do that, or at least entertain it, right? Anyways, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Peace.